Marion Erster threw herself into her new life. She finished college, got a job at Russack's department store, and enjoyed life as a young woman in New York City before marrying.
My biological dad and my mom had a very different life. It was more of a normal life, a quiet life.
But something nagged at Marion.
When I came to the States and found that there was racism here, I was appalled. I couldn't believe it. I remember giving my seat on the bus to an old black lady who came in with a lot of packages. And I got up and gave her my seat, and I was told I couldn't do that. And I remember feeling anger and fear. It was all mixed up. I was very young. I became a member of the NAACP, and it's something that's very much stayed with me.
With other activists, Marion joined the civil rights movement and dedicated herself to exposing racism and anti-Semitism in America. In the late 1960s, Marion's world changed when fate introduced her to a journalist and academic named Elie Wiesel.
I think that my mom expanded her horizons once she met Elie, and I watched my mother just bloom into a person who just wanted to help others and just be strong for those who didn't have a voice.
I think she had so much conviction about his understanding of the world and his notion that hatred bears only one thing, and that is further hatred.
Together, Marion and Elie shared a love of language and a passion for social justice.
The work of a translator is a very complex and elusive thing. Marion's commitment to creating a translation that really served Elie's sense of language, his philosophy, was absolute.
Elie was the beating heart of every relationship and every project. She is the soul of practicality. She's a very tough lady.
An uncanny ability to take a complex situation and fit the pieces of the puzzle together and make things happen, and often make things happen on a very grand scale.
Back in 1979, President Carter called on Elie Wiesel to head a commission to consider whether or not there ought to be a Holocaust museum in Washington. Elie/Marion said it had to be a teaching institution. History and memory had to inspire reflection, education, and ultimately action. Elie's and Marion's founding vision has sustained and animated the institution for the last 25 years.
After Elie received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1986, he and Marion created the Elie Wiesel Foundation for Humanity, through which they championed the memory of the 6 million, sponsored conferences, and sought to bring different perspectives together so that dialogue could triumph over violence.
And Mr. President, I cannot not tell you something. I have been in the former Yugoslavia. We must do something to stop the bloodshed in that country.
Elie was a brilliant speaker, great writer. There was no door of any leader in the world that he couldn't open, but always Marion was at his side. She was his confidant and advised him how and what to do.
She's the one who could really size up, is this good or bad for Elie Wiesel, or good or bad for the cause, or good or bad for the organization.
She was an essential part, the essential part of that partnership in terms of taking the fame that Elie Wiesel ultimately created over the years and turning it into good deeds and good actions.
I think the conferences that Marion created and developed were in many respects so reflective of her imagination.
and their influence on all the Jews of the world, definitely on our generation of Soviet Jews who had to fight our war against the Soviet Empire and change Jewish history, was tremendous.
He and Gorbachev got along beautifully, and they discussed improvements and they discussed what could be done, and they remained friends.
I remember when he was preparing to face down Reagan in his Bitburg speech, Marion poured over every word of that speech. It was a master class in intuitive literary understanding.
It's emblematic of her extraordinary toughness and strength, that she is still the motive power behind the foundation and some of the scholarships that she and Ellie set up.
She took to it and she really enjoyed it, and I think she still enjoys it to this day.
For Ellie and Marion and all they wrote and all they said, indifference and neutrality were not an option. And it's a flame that we all have to keep burning. As long as she's on earth, that's what she's going to do.